Welcome back, grade 7 and 8, to another science fair project video. I want to start off this one by saying very clearly that this is sort of optional, or at least it only applies to some of you. This video is only for people who are including other people in their project. And so if you're doing a project entirely by yourself, you're not experimenting or testing using any other people, you don't need this video. This is not for you. If you are using people, though, this is something that's going to be absolutely required for your project. And that is that you actually have a bit of an extra step, and that you're going to have to create a permission and consent form in order for people to be able to participate in your project. And so let me walk through with you a little bit of what that means and show you where you can find some more of this information. So to start off, just a reminder that one of those links that I gave you on the science website brings you to this website here. This is the main BaseF site, getting started. And you'll notice our Science Success Handbook. That's one of the ones that's there that we've been stepping through that you have access to as well. But you'll notice here as well, there's also a whole section outlining, does your project involve human participation? That includes surveys, skill tests, food or drink. This would include classmates, family members, and even testing of the student doing the project. Although if it's just yourself, you don't have to worry too much about that. There are two different classifications of these projects. There are low-risk human participation projects and significant risk human participation projects. We're going to be talking about those. Now, the high risk or significant risk projects, you don't really have to worry about, because at the grade 7 and 8 level, you're actually not allowed to do those types of projects. So if I go to the one here, low risk, it brings me to this tab where I have information about what a low risk project is. It basically involves conditions where the risk of harm are not any greater or more likely than those encountered in everyday life. Low-risk projects are limited to surveys, food and drink, some caffeinated beverage projects, although that's sometimes an iffy one, some absorption, although again an iffy one, and some exercise projects. Basically, it needs to be a way in which a project is not low risk just because you think no one will be at harm, but if it fits within those 5 criteria. And so to go through, we have human research, which is a project where you're researching on humans. You have yourself, the student researcher. You have the participant, whoever is participating in your project or doing your experiment, and your adult supervisor, which is either your parent, it could be myself, or if you have a different adult supervisor that's kind of overseeing your experiment as well. Now, some low-risk projects, there's some further information. I'm not going to read all of these here, but if you want to specifically know more about those 5 different types, surveys, food and drink, caffeinated beverage, absorption, exercise, there's more detail here about what is allowed with all of those. So for example, exercise, all exercise testing that would go beyond normal everyday activities would be significant risk. So you can't expect someone to exercise to the point where they might injure themselves. That's what we need to be careful of. And because we're having people participate, we need to create an informed consent form. And that form is comprised of 2 different things. And you can read through all of this. But let me show you an example of what that would look like, of what those forms might be. And by the way, you can read all of the things here, but if you go to the bottom, you can go to the ethics website and you can actually download some of these informed consent sections. So let's take a look at a filled out version first. Let me see if I can switch over to that for a second. Okay. Hopefully now you can see again, here is an example of an informed consent letter that's been filled in. This letter is meant to give information about what is going on. And this is an example of a filled in one, all about a project. Now, let's break down what those individual parts are that you need to create. Let's take a look at this one here. This is a blank copy that if you ever wanted to take a look at, you could see what's going on. Let's see if I can switch to that. Okay. So here we have the informed consent letter. And you'll notice that this one's not filled in. And it has all these different parts that will need to be filled in for you. So this is your letter of information. The top's going to stay the same. You're going to create a title here. Researcher and advisor. This is the information where you give, because you're by yourself, there's no student too. You're going to give your information. You're going to give your adult supervisors information. That could be your parents if you're doing this at home. Scientific supervisor, you can just put myself if you want there. In school, you're going to put our school. Now you have to outline these remaining 9 different topics. So purpose of the research, and a lot of this you follow what's here. So what's the purpose? Describe the purpose. Maybe it is, I am trying to determine what is the best flour in a cake. What's the benefits for participating? Now this is used in our science experiments here, but this is also used in the broader world for science projects as well. What is the benefit from participating? Maybe it's just, you're helping me determine which is the best flour for cake, that kind of thing. And that might be it for your project, and that's fine. What's the risks from participating? Now, the risks might be very, very small, but you do need to lay them out. If you're dealing with food, risks would be certain like allergic reactions. It could be choking or things like that as well. And so you do need to outline those risks that are there, even if they're minor. If there are none, then you do need to state that there are none as well. Time commitment required. Before someone agrees to participate in your project, they need to know how long this will take. It might be just a 10-second thing. But we've had projects before where students have wanted to test somebody for an hour a day, 3 days a week for 4 weeks straight. That's a big time commitment. And you need to understand that before agreeing to participate in a project, or someone needs to understand that before agreeing to participate in your project. Remuneration. Number 6 here, that's a big fancy word for how much are people going to get paid for participating in your project. Well, I'll give you a really easy answer to this one here. For grade 7 and 8 level projects, you are not allowed to pay someone to participate in your project. So remuneration, all you're going to state there is no remuneration will be paid for participating in this project. But you have to state that there, that they are not getting paid for participating. Confidentiality of data. When you're working through this project, let's say you're doing an exercise project. You can't go through your project and say, yeah, Johnny did really well at these exercises, but but Paul, he did terrible. And look at how bad Paul's numbers are. You can't use people's names. You have to keep things what we call confidential. And that confidentiality of the data needs to be guaranteed. You could say subject A did really, really well. Subject B did not do really, really well. And that's how you would use that. And so for confidentiality of data, you need to have a statement here that states, how will you keep things confidential or secret in terms of someone's participation? Withdrawal from the project. This is one that you never hope happens, but you need to state within your project that someone has the right to withdraw from your project if they choose to, and how they would let you know. Maybe it's just telling you that they don't want to be a part of the project anymore, but whatever it ends up being, you need to have a statement in there that they are allowed to withdraw from the project and how they should let you know that they're withdrawing. Results. How are they going to find out the results? Maybe it's just the results will be posted on my science fair project. That's fine. And that's where they could figure out what the results were of the entire project that was there. Ethics approval. Before you start your project, you have to get an ethics approval, basically from myself. So check with me. And once you have that, you can state there that you have received an ethics approval from your school's ethics board, which is myself, once you've told that to me. This informed consent letter needs to be given, a filled in version of this, to every person who participates in your project. Every person who you are experimenting on needs to receive one of these letters. On top of this letter, I know this is seeming like a lot, but the last thing that you need to provide on top of that letter as well is the informed consent permission form. So that letter, you give that to them, they keep it, they don't have to give it back to you, you've just given it to them. This one here, what's nice about this one is there's not a lot of work you have to do on this end. All you have to do is put in your title and put in your date, and that's it. And then you have to sign it. So the name of the participant, they have to print their name and sign. The name of their parent or guardian has to be there and signed if they are under the age of 18. So this one can be a tricky one. If you want your friends to participate in your project, that's fine. Their parents will have to sign off on it though. And then finally here, name of person obtaining consent, that's you. You'll need to put your own name here and sign it. And this you will need to have if you end up going on to a bigger science fair. They will ask to see your informed consent permission forms. You need to keep a copy of this. And if you have 10 people participating in your project and you only have 8 of these to show, they will not continue to look at your project. You need to have these back before you experiment on people. And you're going to keep a blank copy of it in your project, and that's going to be included in your written report. There's a lot of extra information here, a lot of extra things that need to be done in order for you to have human participation in your project. But going that extra mile can make for a fantastic project as well. Hopefully that gave you some good information on that. And like I said, check out some of those documents that can be found on those links that are there as well as you continue to work on that.